Let's go!
There's a lot going on. We are starting to see the actual painful reality kick in. Prices are officially going up, and we clearly already had an inclination of what was happening because of the Nintendo Switch 2. But the Nintendo Switch 2 console was not that expensive. It was about like normally priced of what we were thinking it would be priced, all things considered. However, I spent $90 on a controller, like a normal ass controller. And that's what Nintendo kind of did to offset all of this stuff with the manufacturing price changes, right? The fact that yes, making all of their systems is going to get more expensive and stuff. Like, no kidding, that camera and all of the other things that were not the base hardware of the Switch 2 are way more expensive. It's like, geez, man. Like, this $90 Switch 2 controller, like, holy hell, dude. I pre-ordered one of those. There's a lot going on in Zawadadil right now. America's at war with everybody financially at the moment, and we're sort of seeing the impact of that happening live and in front of us. And this is going to boil back to fighting games, trust me. Trust me, this is a fighting game conversation. I'm starting to see it a lot in the retro gaming market. Most of the people I follow make products that are for older systems, right? So the majority of their things come from other countries, obviously. All the chips and the hardware that go into making that stuff is huge. They can't get it anymore. Straight up. They're just unable to get it. And those things are now unavailable. So I'm seeing a very large part of what I've already been associated with being impacted by this shit. Third-party Dreamcast controllers, like all that kind of stuff. Like all of the extra little things, your EverDrives, like all that kind of stuff that go into making your cool retro games work. The homegrown stuff that is kind of like made in a garage and then mass distributed. That shit is now impossible to find. That's already impacted that in that way. And then today we get the big announcement because the majority of things like manufacturing of parts from that side of the world, it seems like they're sort of like closing up shop and shit. A lot of the ports in the western side of the US are not getting any shipments of anything, which is pretty crazy. How does this boil down? The Xbox is raising in price globally for a variety of reasons. Nintendo sort of like set a precedent. They were like the first ones because they obviously have new hardware coming in and it's about to become very expensive for them. It says like Nintendo and PlayStation both. Dude, I don't even remember PlayStation increasing prices on shit. Did PS5s go up in price? Did PS5 Pros already go up in price? Did that just like go right under my radar or some shit? It was in Europe. Okay, just for comparison's sake, the Xbox is going up, the Series S to $379, the 1 terabyte to $429, the X Digital to $549, and the Xbox Series X itself to $600. Granted, it's Xbox, like whoop-de-doo, but also some accessories in the same way that Nintendo stuff went up too. So that's not great. The things are just about to get way more expensive. And for those of you that might have not seen our original takes on this and what we were talking about, the thing that I have been actively covering and been a fan of like the majority of my life and trying to get other people into is about to become way more selective in terms of who will be able to enjoy this stuff now. What you can afford, what you can get into. If you can't afford 2 games, normally you could, now you can only afford 1 or something like that, right? Because again, this isn't just video games going up in price. Well, this is just an entertainment medium that we, entertain ourselves with. How many other things are also going to raise in price alongside that? And we're only at the beginning of this shit. That being the case, gaming's a hobby, exactly. I don't like being in a situation where I flaunt a 700 plus whatever goddamn dollar PlayStation 5 Pro. I don't like games being super expensive. I don't like sitting in a special bubble, especially in entertainment. Bro, this is like entertainment. This is the most like anybody can jump into this and enjoy something, right? It is not supposed to be a selective luxury suite type of shit. That's not what this has ever been. Like they've tried to do that in some ways, with like some consoles, especially the friggin' PS5 Pro and shit, but now it's turning into something that is getting there. We're leaning in that direction along with many other things that are going to become more expensive over time. Also, the idea that Grand Theft Auto could be over $100 and shit. I like sharing my experiences with everybody else and knowing that they're going through the same shit I am and they are loving it. This is going to come back to fighting games. Expedition 33 just came out. It's like game of the year material. People are freaking out about it. A smaller developed game, smaller produced game, and a smaller publisher kind of game. It's $49.99 and the game's huge. It's a big ass game. They easily could have charged full price for it, but they didn't. They had a realization that we're kind of just like a small ragtag group of people, and we don't want to overprice our game. We know it's a difficult state to be in, where we have like a new franchise and we're trying to get people into it. We know that's hard. So the game's cheap and you can get it on discount and shit. I've been hearing people tell me they get it for like 40 bucks or something on some code discounts and stuff. They sold like 1 million copies in 3 days. A turn-based JRPG, French JRPG that got good reviews, and it's still also on Game Pass, right? And they still sold 1 million plus copies in like a few days. There is a quality of game thing going on here, but there's also a price thing that I think makes it much more rational in your head. And now we're boiling it back to fighting games. I made a few different conversations before that sort of like lead up to this of the approachability of fighting games. The last one we just talked about was like how fighting games need to leave a really good first impression. And the reason that first impression needs to be good is because it has to like grab you by the balls. And if it doesn't do that from the first impression, then dude, how are you expecting people to spend $60 to $70 on this? There are very few fighting games in the space of the last 5, 6, 7 years where you can actively look at that game and be like, hey, that game is worth its full ass price tag. This is also a reiterated topic that I have discussed before. Fighting games are expensive as shit, bro. Really expensive. In my opinion, there are very few fighting games on the market right now that feel like they're actually worth their full price tag. And I get it. The way we feel about a couple of them have sort of changed because it's been like a year to 2 years. But I think we can be a little confident with each other. Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6 are worth their price tag. They finally, kind of like the first time in the franchise history, Tekken and Street Fighter are 2 games now that feel like what they're asking for is worth it. They put a shit ton into it. There's a ton of stuff to do. There's a shit ton of stuff to play. There's a great story mode, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things in there. The fact that Tekken 8 gave you proper arcade endings, the staple of what Tekken is, when that was, I believe, missing from Tekken 7 for quite a while. That shit was like, wow, you did that on top of a big story mode, on top of all this crazy ghost battle shit, on top of all this like insane online stuff, which was bigger than it ever has been. If you go back to January of 2024, it was like impossible that a Tekken game could be this feature rich outside of like the really old Tekken games. I feel like Street Fighter and Tekken have sort of established themselves and they're like, hey, you know what? We are offering enough in here to sort of make it that a full priced fighting game, this is what it is. You know what? They did it. You're right. For one of the first times, the Japanese developers have actually created 2 fighting games that feel like they line up and are comparative with NetherRealm Studios games. Most of NRS games have focused on this so much over the past 10 years, which is why they got popular. The money that you were going to put into an NRS game historically was going to be worth it, because even if you didn't play a ton online, you knew there was a ton of extra shit to do and you would get a lot of playtime out of that outside of just grinding online matches. MK1 was not that. MK1 has taken a lot of time to, you know, hopefully be that game, but we can sort of come to the conclusion that Mortal Kombat 1 asking its full price and its DLC to be comparatively just as much big full price did not really feel like that was necessarily worth it in comparison to games like Injustice 2 and Mortal Kombat 11. If we start looking at like the history of most of the bigger fighting games that have come out, Dragon Ball FighterZ, comparatively speaking, really sold itself on an impossible idea that finally came true, that we can get a big, bombastic, huge 2D Dragon Ball game. And it sort of rode that the entire time. But for the most part, a lot of that game was you mostly playing the game online. Its story mode was pretty bare bones, and it wasn't necessarily like insanely well done. It was obviously there because they knew it was going to appeal to a bigger audience. My argument in these situations is that the majority of fighting games that have been coming out, I don't think are worthy of being charged full price. They're mostly just like arcade games that kind of come with an online mode, and that's about it. And then there's some training tools, kind of. Then you're just going to grind it out online. That's it. And yeah, dude, the majority of fighting games that have come out are no shit that. You can finish out the majority of that content in those games in like an afternoon. Ain't no goddamn way you're going to clear out all of World Tour, all of the endings, and do all of the online and trials, and then like even a game like Street Fighter 6, much less do all of the endings in Tekken 8, all of the crazy, you know, level up your ghost horse shit, like all that kind of stuff that people still actually play. These games are mostly meant for you just to engage with them online. It's hard to argue for somebody to get into a fighting game and the majority of that stuff feeling like it was necessarily like worth it. All I'm saying is that the majority of fighting games are sort of being designed in a way where you're just going to engage with their systems and play that game just for a whole bunch. And I get it. That's the way the majority of us are going to be playing them in that way. But I don't think that's comparatively valued. I don't think that's priced well. All I'm trying to say is that even in games like City of the Wolves, which is way more feature rich than it was before, I talked with some folks and I've seen some people play through the arcade stuff, which we did, which is cool. There is a lot of really cool stuff in there. You do it in like 2 to 3 hours for full price. I think fighting games and publishers of fighting games need to wake up, dude. There's another one that's on the horizon that kind of blows my mind. And another example that I also have to take that did try something. DNF Duel, right? Everyone's favorite game. DNF Duel barely had like any content at launch, barely any. Super basic story per character, and then online modes for the most part. That's about it. But it was $50. They actually discounted that game. Here's the issue. The game should have been 30 in my personal opinion, based on what it was offering at launch. And then we have some new games that are coming out, which I'm sort of like, yeesh, I don't know if this is gonna really do it. Hunter x Hunter's coming out, and it's an aiding game. It's a Marvel-like. It's got so many things that it's like, I don't know anything about Hunter x Hunter, but yeah, bro, I am going to check that out. That bitch ass game is full price. And to me, like, even if it had like a 20 character roster or close to 20 character roster 3v3, and it was even 40, that is still like kind of like a yeesh. I feel like that almost inherently like dooms the potential of the game reaching a large audience outside of just fighting game fans and Hunter x Hunter, right? And maybe that's all they're hoping for. I really feel that fighting games have been overpriced for a really long time, as we boil this entire conversation down, that unless you're doing something like a Mortal Kombat 11 or a Tekken 8 or a Street Fighter 6. Those 3 games, I think, have set a standard. In the past like 5 to 6 years, we have now seen what a true fighting game is that offers a shit ton of content. I'm not even talking about microtransaction, DLC, and extra bullshit. I'm just saying, like, right out of the box, does this game give you enough to actually work with? I really, really, really hope that there's a future where fighting game publishers especially realize this. I just think like asking for new fighting games, even franchise stuff that is that expensive, I think is crazy, man. They need to justify their existence, you know? They need to justify like why they're worth that much money, because right now all games and many others are about to get way more expensive. All I gotta say is that there is examples of things being comparatively priced, and you can get a much bigger audience of people to get into, because at that point the word of mouth is like, oh, this is really good, well, it's cheaper, I guess I'll try it. Yeah, that seems really good. Dude, I feel like most fighting games could be in that situation. This game's dope, you gotta check it out, and then all of a sudden you look at the price tag and you're like, Jesus, I think I'm good.